And in my mind, when you talk about the New Orleans Saints, the one big thing is, who cares? And I'm not saying this to attack Saints fans or the Saints organization. I'm saying that when you have had a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback and all of the momentum and the great stories and the feel-goods and all of these things that New Orleans had for a generation, you wake up one day and you realize that post that, you're not just, it's not that you're good or bad. The Saints, as you pointed out when we were getting ready for this show, the Saints had a winning record last year. They're not a bad football team. They're an irrelevant football team. They don't have somebody that every fan listening will just flock to find out, hey, what's this guy doing? They don't have the fantasy superstar. They don't have the head coach that people, how many people even know what Dennis Allen looks like unless you've been around Dennis Allen, right? Like, they've got Derek Carr, who's always very good, but never really fires up the world to get into the spot of being glorious and great. Like, the Saints are no longer a conversation piece. And this exercise is proof positive of that, because it's not that there's anything wrong with their team or anything right with their team. Their team is just sort of there.
Yeah, totally, 100%. And even with some of their individual guys follow that. Like, everybody likes to think that Derek Carr was terrible last season. Not really. He was fine. And that's the thing. He's fine. The Saints were fine. Chris Olave, he was fine. Like, it's not like these guys were awful or terrible. It's just so unimpressive and uninspiring. And yes, you're right. As far as being just kind of stuck in the middle of the road here, can this Saints group ever win a Super Bowl? No, absolutely not. Like, unless you just get some crazy fortunate breaks and have a bunch of breakthroughs we don't see coming from guys like Rashid Shaheed becomes like the next Justin Jefferson or something. Like, but that's probably not going to happen. And the Saints team probably is never going to be a contender as constructed. But yet they're good enough where you can be like, hey, we're 9-8 last year. How could you just tear that apart? We got to make a run at this. The division, it almost like it's the division, the NFC South, is so bad that it's hurting the Saints at being honest with themselves, because they're always in contention, right? But that's just because the NFC South has been so bad the last couple of years. It might be again if the Falcons thing doesn't work out as well as we think, or Buccaneers, unless they take a real big step forward. They were just 9-8 last year too. So it's almost like the Saints talk themselves into being better than they are when we all know they're not a Super Bowl contender. And you're right, they're irrelevant. There's only a few teams in the NFL where if you have Sunday ticket, you're just never turning on that game unless you're really into the opponent. And the Saints are one of them. There's just really no reason to flip the channel to them.
I can't put the Saints against anybody in the middle of the season on Sunday Night Football in a way that when the schedule was released was going to make non-fans of either team say, oh my God, I have to watch that game. That's just where New Orleans is now.
Yeah, absolutely, positively middle of the road. Again, they're not bad. Like, we usually talk this way about teams like, oh, the Patriots are going to win 3 games. Nobody wants to watch them. The Saints are probably going to win 8 or 9 games. Maybe they'll go 8-1. I mean, that's how mediocre they are.
They got a real shot at winning the division. Honestly,
they do. That's the thing. We could see them in the playoffs, and it'd be like, the Saints, okay, whatever.
The Saints are going to be treated, if they win their division, they'll be treated the same way the Jags and Titans do when they win their division,
the Texans,
respectively. They'll get the Saturday afternoon game. No, and we're like, all right, well, we're stuck with the Saints on Saturday afternoon. Like, that's where they are.
Yeah, and it's just shocking because a few years ago, that was one of the must-watch teams in the NFL.